Hey guys, welcome back. Last time we were here, we talked about an online client who we were going to be making some programming changes to. Every time he tests, he makes about a 5 or 10 pound PR in his bench press, which is good, but we're hoping that we can increase the amount that those PRs are to hopefully 15 or even 20 pounds. So we're going to be talking about some exercise selection changes that we're going to be making that will hopefully push us to those bigger PRs. This client does what is very common for a lot of people to do in the bench press, which is kind of a football style bench where you slowly let the weight down for the first about 3 to 6 inches, but then once you start getting closer to the chest, you kind of bounce the bar off your chest and try and ride the momentum of the bounce out of the bottom of the press. One of the main issues with bench pressing in this style is that we're going to be tight and in a good position when we're at the top, but as we come closer to the chest and we try and kind of relax to get that bounce off the bottom, we're going to lose a little bit of the arch and a little bit of the tightness in our upper back, and that's really going to compromise our ability to have a strong press out of the bottom of the lift. And there are some people who like to let the bar down slow. There are some people who like to let the bar down fast. There's not necessarily a wrong way to do it, but whatever speed we're letting the bar descend to our chest, we want that speed to be consistent throughout the entire motion. And that's going to help us maintain consistency in the tightness and arch in our upper back. The second issue we run into is that we're relying too much on the bounce out of the bottom of the bench. Our chest, our front delt, and our triceps are kind of becoming relaxed as we go through that bounce, and then we're trying to get tight again so we can explode as we get near the top of the press, and it ends up not really being that effective. If we can let that bar down with a more deliberate pace and then explode and punch really hard off the chest, that tends to be a lot more successful for most people. Before we talk about the bench press variations that we're going to be using, I want to emphasize that the main tool that I use with myself and with all my clients when we want to make a form change is that we just need to practice how we want to play. And so if you have this football style bench and you don't want that and you want to change it, you have to practice for multiple reps and multiple sets, letting the bar down with that deliberate, consistent pace and then exploding and punching hard off of the chest. That way that movement pattern gets ingrained in your muscle memory so that when you do go to test your 1 rep max and you don't have the ability to make a form adjustment at that time, it's already there because it's your muscle memory and it's what your body naturally reverts back to. Here we have Bryce Lewis benching what I believe is an even 500 pounds. And you can see as he's bringing the bar down, it's not super slow, it's relatively quick, but it's a slow and consistent pace the whole way down. And then once he hits the chest, he's driving off hard. He does slow down a little bit there near the top, but that's pretty normal for when you're handling maximal weights. So that's a good example of what a deliberate descent in the bench press looks like. The main objective of using these bench press variations is to, one, get you stronger through that range of motion where we'd be normally relying on the bounce off the chest and relying on that momentum a little too much, but also to get you more confident and more skilled at lowering heavy weights down to the chest with a consistent and deliberate manner and not rushing it because you're nervous about missing the press. This first variation is just an eccentric tempo bench, which basically means on the lowering portion of the lift, you're going to go slower, and I like to do it for 5 seconds, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, all the way up to 5, and then pause for a second on the chest, and then press as hard as I can. You're not going to be able to use your normal 1 rep max or anything close to it when you're doing this because you're spending so much time and energy lowering the bar down slowly. And so what I would do is use something like 75 to 80% of your 1 rep max, and you can use that as a heavy single before you go into your working sets, whether it's a 5x5 or 3x5 or whatever it may be. let's say if your 1 rep max on a normal bench is 275, you might want to use about 205 the first time you do this. And each week, when you go back and do it again, just add 5 pounds and do that for 3 to 4 weeks, and then maybe take a deload or move on to a different variation. The second variation is a tempo concentric bench, and it's basically the opposite of the first one. So we're going to let the bar down to our chest with that consistent, deliberate speed that we want to practice, but then once we press off the chest, we're going to deliberately go very slow, especially through those first 3 to 5 inches off the chest. You want to count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, all the way up to 5, just like the first one, all the way up to the lockout. These are both going to be very difficult at first, but the stronger you get with them, the more confident you're going to be through these ranges of motion where you normally might feel a little bit weak and a little bit unconfident, and you're just going to want to keep trying to get better at these, keep cycling them in through your training for weeks at a time. That's all I have. Thanks for tuning in. If there is a portion of a specific lift that you struggle with, message me, let me know. We might make a video on it. Check you next time.